Where does Joe Burrow rank among the top quarterbacks? Well, pretty darn high, according to CBS Sports. Matthew Stafford, the reigning MVP, first overall in the rankings. Obviously, first quarterback ranked. Josh Allen, third. Then it's Joe Burrow, fifth in the rankings, third quarterback, ahead of Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's pretty darn noteworthy. Burrow, fifth. Mahomes, seventh. Buy or sell that Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes?
I will buy that every day of the week. Not saying that Mahomes is not a bad quarterback, because he is a fine quarterback. He's obviously a multi-Super Bowl champion, has won the MVP. I just think Burrow is better, especially where he's at in his career. You look at Mahomes' numbers, and I know he missed a couple of games last year after going out with that ACL, but his numbers have been dipping each of the last seasons since his 2022 MVP season, even though he won it, in 2024 there. It was in the mix there, AP. However, you look at Burrow's numbers, and if Burrow would have played an entire season, I think his numbers could have been up there to what he had put out in 2024 when he should have won MVP that season. I just think overall Burrow is a better quarterback. He just hasn't had the complete team around him to get the recognition like Mahomes has.
I completely agree. Buying this as much as I can buy it. I didn't think I'd have the opportunity to buy it today. I think I would have been fighting for this ranking instead of agreeing with this ranking. But yes, I think Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. And I think he has been now for about 2 or 3 years. And I think that's pretty clear when you just look at the quarterback play instead of the team's success. I think the difference between Burrow and Mahomes that stands out most at this point in their careers is who's calling the plays. I mean, Andy Reid in Kansas City is a huge, huge addition to what Mahomes has been able to do. And obviously, Kelsey, one of the best tight ends of all time, and Tyreek Hill for the first half of Mahomes' career goes toe-to-toe with the weapons Joe Burrow has had. I absolutely think Burrow is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes at this point in their careers. And I think the big thing that makes the ranking in this offseason even easier than past offseasons, they're both, Burrow came back already in the season. Mahomes is coming back from a significant injury. This is something we haven't necessarily seen from him before. We've seen it from Joe. We've seen him do it at a really high level after missing time from being hurt. So no questions about what Joe's going to be come week one, at least in my mind. And I think there is a lot of questions about what Pat's going to be come week one.
I mean, all right. You put me in this position, and I'm going to do it because I need to do it. It's Patrick Mahomes is better than Joe Burrow because he's proven it for far more years. He's done more. His ceiling is higher. And you look at it, he's played at least 14 games every year he started. After that rookie year where he sat behind Alex Smith and learned behind him and he started that one game, since then it's 14 plus. So he's been durable. And that's what's tough. His numbers have dipped over the past few years. And do I think in a vacuum Joe Burrow could be the better quarterback? Absolutely. He's got to prove it. Doesn't have the rings, doesn't have the MVPs, and hasn't had the durability. Would it be different if he was in Kansas City and Mahomes was here? Probably, but it's not. This is it. And I think Joe would probably admit that too. He has to prove it this year. And do I think that on the surface he can be the number one quarterback on the planet where this isn't debatable next year? Absolutely. Can I hold Patrick Mahomes coming back from an ACL when Joe Burrow's had all these other injuries? I'm not going to hold that against him. I think his weapons have been far worse over the past couple of years. Yes, he has Andy Reid. He has a more stable franchise. There's no doubt. They've been more consistent, and we're consistent going into the Mahomes era. It would have been like if the Bengals drafted Joe in 2016, coming off of that 2015 run, and that roster was about to hit its prime, and then Joe takes over. It would have been a bit different the way he inherited it, Mahomes did, from Alex Smith. So I get that. Joe has the ability, and I believe he can be the best player on the planet. And I believe Zach Taylor when he says, there's no one else I would rather have than Joe Burrow. But when I look at their resumes, one is Patrick Mahomes' resume. One has been more durable. One has won more. One has more accolades. And then the other is Joe Burrow. And I can't run from that, even though I do think that in a vacuum, Joe could be better than Patrick Mahomes this season.
I don't think that's totally fair to put the resumes next to each other and compare. You're not doing that with Myles Garrett to other edge rushers in the league, even though he played on a Browns team that had, made the playoffs and gone on a run. Just because Joe Burrow didn't have a top 15 defense to be able to get them into the playoffs, that shouldn't be held against him that he doesn't have the rings that Mahomes does.
Well, okay. Man, you're really going to put me against Joe here. Wasn't great in Super Bowl 56, and I get offensive line-wise. lost to Mahomes the following year, and I get it offensive line-wise, same thing. I think that Joe is asked to do as much as any player probably in the history of football for his team. Like, not just in the league. Like, I think Joe Burrow, the Bengals offense runs through him more than the Chiefs offense runs through Mahomes, just to be clear. Like, they put a ton on Joe's shoulders, and I think that's what he wants. So I get that part. So, like, value, who's more valuable? I think Joe's as valuable as anyone in the league. But resume-wise, even so, let's go, like, the head-to-head stuff, that's kind of ended a little bit. Mahomes has had Burrow's number in recent years, and that was the 3-0, Joe's 3-0 against Mahomes. Well, now it's 3-2. It's much closer. And they're 1-1 in AFC Championship games. The resume matters some. Like, Myles Garrett, for me, is by far the best defender. I mean, I think he's the best player, to be honest with you, right now going into this season, and he hasn't won anything. But Mahomes... it's not just it's all of the above. It's full body. He has the personal accolades, he's got the team accolades, and he's been durable. And so it's tough for me to go against him. And I would say the same thing about a Josh Allen. It's not just a Joe Burrow thing. It's a Josh Allen to a degree, lesser degree, because Allen stayed healthier than Burrow. But until you knock Mahomes completely off the peak, then I think he's in that mix.
So if it's just who has more trophies on their mantle currently, then Lamar's also ahead of Burrow?
No. I think you can make that argument for sure.
You can.
Yeah, for sure. No, because one has 5 playoff wins and the other doesn't. Joe doesn't have that flex on Mahomes, and so that's
Mahomes,
what's tough.
Joe, Josh, Lamar would be how you have those 4 ranked based on what you've said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sam Darnold has a Super Bowl win. Are you putting him ahead of Burrow?
No, because there's context needed there. 1, 2, no, it's not just about the Super Bowl.
Right, yeah. It's the body of work. I get it.
If Sam Darnold wins MVP this year, he's going to be ahead of Joe Burrow in every ranking next year.
Correct.
He won't win MVP, but if he does, if he goes full Matt Stafford,
yeah, well, the thing these 4 are the 4. I think that's the thing that really is the takeaway from every offseason, really for the last 3 years or so. The 4 quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, I'm really not going to freak out whatever order you have those 4 ranked in, as long as they're your top 4. I don't think there's really a point. Bigger picture. Next season, sure, absolutely, after winning the MVP last year, the age, if we're redrafting the league or something like that, he's not in that category for me. I think those 4 are a clear tier above anyone else in the league right now.
I get that, like, long term. Stafford last year was better than all of them.
And he could still be again this year.
He may be better than all of them this year.
For sure.
And part of that's his weapons, because I'm sure Mahomes would be like, hey, if I could trade Travis Kelce, old man Travis, for Puka Nacua, I would. You know, and I think that's part of it here, is taking that into conversation. I also wonder about Andy Reid. He looked kind of lost at times last year. Like, is he still an elite coach? Well, I think we'll see this year. So that's part of it too. But looking at this ranking, I totally get it. We're a Cincinnati-based show. Joe Burrow's awesome, and I think he could end up being number 1. But he has not done enough to supplant Mahomes at that peak. And you look at the resume, and the resume does matter. Now, Joe, the reason why head-to-head against Allen, he's beat up on Allen. And last year, it felt like the same thing. In Buffalo, it felt like he was going to do it again coming off of the injury. I was about to be like, man, he just has Josh in the Bills' number. And then that fourth quarter happened, and it changed it a bit. And that narrative flips a little bit. With 3rd and 16, they converted in the AFC Championship game to Hayden Hurst. And I think that they're going to win their 2nd straight AFC Championship game against Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead. And that narrative never would have died. It would have been Joe Burrow ahead of Mahomes forever if they do that for a 2nd straight year. It didn't happen.
Right.
And it might not necessarily be Joe's fault. It might be because they had 3 starting offensive linemen out. I get it. But that's part of it. That's part of why getting there and winning it, if you do that, you can't be denied, especially at this level.
Does it feel a little unfair that quarterbacks have that weight on their shoulders too? Because, like, we're not making the argument, like, if this was like the receiver talk, Jamar's listed at 1st, you look, Puka Nacua is 9th on this list. Well, the Rams have had way more success in recent years than Jamar has. Their numbers are comparable in that sense. Are we having that same argument of why Puka, should be ahead of Jamar? Like, I feel like quarterbacks just have it so unfair in that sense. And I get it. They're the catalyst. They're, the face of their teams. But it feels, I don't know, it feels like unfair, like in that regard.
The answer I'd have is yes. It's unfair, but yes, it's sports. Like I think that's part of playing the quarterback position. It's why the highest paid quarterback's $20 million more than the highest paid wide receiver. You get a lot more pressure on your shoulders, and you get talked about whether your team wins or loses. I mean, the other side of the coin is fair too, in terms of when you're talking about Patrick Mahomes Super Bowls. It's not a lot of Andy Reid. It's not a lot of Travis Kelce. It's not a lot of Tyreek Hill. It's Patrick Mahomes won those Super Bowls. And then with the shortcomings of the Bengals over the last 3 years, sure, it's certainly not fair to put it all on Joe Burrow's shoulders, but I think that's part of playing quarterback. And I certainly don't think it applies to other positions, and I think that in specifically the Joe Burrow conversation makes it tough to swallow sometimes, because if it was a defensive end conversation or a wide receiver conversation, then I think most people would have Joe ranked significantly higher than most people do. But since it is quarterback and win-loss, whether it's true or not, it's not true. Win-loss is a quarterback stat for a lot of these debates, and it seems to hurt Joe Burrow more often than not.
Well, I think it does matter. It just does. And the other element here, I do think that wins in playoff performances can help receivers like Edelman.
Yeah.
If you're in a bunch of playoff games and you show up and you're making a huge impact and it's consistent over time, then absolutely. I also think Jamar Chase is a freak, and that's why he's ahead of Puka, honestly. It's just because he's such a unique talent. And he does have the playoff skins on the wall. He caught the pass that got the Bengals in field goal range against the Titans. He caught the pass that I thought was going to jumpstart their drive against the Rams in Super Bowl 56 on the sideline, a play. I mean, the fourth down double team in that AFC Championship game they eventually lost, which is one of the craziest jump ball plays ever. Like, Jamar already has a bunch of catches that mattered. And so that's it. Now, we can end it with this, because we can all agree here. If Joe Burrow goes out there, throws for 5,000 yards, wins the MVP, and leads the Bengals to a Super Bowl, he's going to be number one on every list. And so that's the goal. And there would be no debate if he did that. That's up to him to go do this season.